Haunting Chronicles, the 3 a.m. road to Dystopia's darkest nightmare. Truths never told. The night was darker than usual. 3 a.m. stood alone like a haunted sentinel, and in that eerie stillness, dread whispered secrets, meant only for the brave. Chase, with his tattooed arms and wild eyes, felt the chill crawl up his spine as he drove down Hollowed Creek Road. This was no ordinary road. It was infamous for the disappearances that followed its winding path like ghosts trailing behind. Local legends spoke of blood-curdling screams echoing in the trees, of shadows never seen but always felt. Anyone who dared to roll through at this hour risked becoming part of the very lore that haunted the townsfolk's muted discussions. With each heartbeat, Chase knew he was courting danger. Then there was the rumor of the vanishing hitchhiker. A young woman, dressed in white, who appeared out of nowhere, her eyes piercing through the dark like bullets of ice. They said if you picked her up, she'd give you a cryptic warning just before she vanished in a puff of midnight fog. Chase couldn't shake the thought. He rolled down his window, inhaling the cold night air, the scent of pine mixed with something rotten that made his stomach twist. Was it fear or something more? Suddenly, a flicker in his rearview mirror caught his eye. Was that a figure? He blinked and focused. Nothing, just trees swaying, seeming to murmur secrets to one another. But the tension escalated as he hit a bump. His tires squealed, and the radio fell silent, like the night was holding its breath. He gripped the wheel tighter, heart pounding. The stories echoed in his head, filling him with dread. He wasn't just driving through a ghost town. He was carving a path through nightmares, and something didn't want him here. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Chase squeezed his eyes shut for a split second, willing himself to shake the paranoia. Just then, a shadow flitted across the road ahead. Panic clawed at his throat as he slammed on the brakes. He stared ahead, pulse racing. Was it her? The girl in white? He strained his eyes, searching the darkness, but found nothing. Only silence wrapped around him tightly, like a shroud, and that's when he heard a soft tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the passenger's side window. A shiver ran down his spine, as cold as ice water plunging down his back. He turned slowly, dread cutting through him like a knife. There, standing just beyond the glass, was the ghostly figure of a young woman, lips moving silently, eyes wide and wild. Chase's breath hitched. What did she want? What warning did she carry? Could he afford to stay, or should he gun it and race away, letting whatever nightmare was unfolding remain untouched? The figures and stories fade into legend, but right now, they felt all too real. He needed to know. Chase's heart thudded loudly in his chest, drowning out the eerie stillness that enveloped him. He could barely breathe as fear pinched at the edges of his mind. The young woman stood there, a vision so haunting, it twisted something deep within him. Her eyes, filled with urgency, begged for him to understand. What do you want? He whispered, his voice barely escaping his lips. Her lips twitched, forming the shape of words that didn't reach his ears. It was a strange, sickening sound, like the dull hum of a dying engine. Chase leaned closer, desperate to decode the warning she carried, but fear gripped him, rooting him in place. He reminded himself of the stories, the hitchhiker whose words were a vital lifeline, or a final twist into madness. Then, with a sudden whoosh, the wind blustered around him, sweeping through the open window. It carried with it a cacophony of whispers, echoing through the darkness. Run, the wind seemed to cry out. Panic surged through his veins. Chase shouted, I'm not leaving you. But just as he declared his resolve, the girl's expression shifted. A glimmer of understanding flickered in her eyes before the shadows loomed larger, engulfing her, pulling her back. One moment she was there, The next nothing but a memory made of fog. He blinked, swallowing hard, confusion setting in. The fog thickened, swallowing his surroundings in a way that felt alive, pulsating. As he looked back to the road, his stomach dropped. The trees seemed to twist, their gnarled branches reaching out as if to grab him, while the road ahead morphed into a tunnel of darkness. His instincts screamed at him to drive away. No more hesitation. He slammed the gear into reverse and felt the thrill of reckless abandon burning in his veins. But before he could move, another figure darted into view, this time from in front of his car, a man dressed in tattered clothes with a wild gaze that mirrored his own fear. "Don't stop!" the man yelled, voice hoarse as if he hadn't spoken in days. "You have to go. She's coming." Chase's eyes widened, the icy grip of dread stifling him. "Who's coming?" The man turned to look over his shoulder as if sensing something dark and terrible in the night. It's the thing that takes people." The man's voice cracked. "If you stop now, you'll be lost too." With adrenaline surging, Chase's foot pressed harder on the gas pedal. The wheels spun briefly before shooting him backward, away from the haunted figure of the hitchhiker and her cryptic warning. Just then, the world outside warped. He could feel eyes watching him from the shadows, something lurking, hungry. The smell of decay hung thick, making him gag. "Keep going!" the man screamed, desperation spilling over. "You can't look back. You have to trust me. It will take you next if you look back." Chase's breath quickened as he battled his instincts. Part of him wanted to help the man, to scream for them both to flee. But doubt gnawed at him. What if he only sealed his own doom? The road twisted as he glanced to the rearview mirror, clenching the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. Would he see her? Would he see it? Then he heard it, a low growl, reverberating through the air, chilling him to the bone. It emerged from the fog like a ghostly echo, creeping closer, clawing at his sanity. With a surge of defiance, he shot forward into the night, the dark stretching before him like a sinister prophecy unfolding. What lay ahead, he couldn't know, but the dread in his chest urged him to keep going. But what if he was too late? As the fog thickened and shadows warped once again, Chase couldn't shake the feeling that the answer he sought was deeper than the night, buried beneath the weight of hollowed creek itself. What awaited him at the end of this road? Chase's heart raced as he tore down the road, the engine roaring in protest. He couldn't shake the image of the girl from his mind. Her eyes, so full of terror, seemed etched into his soul. What had she tried to tell him before the shadows consumed her? The desperation in the man's voice echoed in his head, a relentless drumbeat that drove him forward. The fog thickened around him, swirling like tendrils of smoke curling around a flame, and he fought to maintain his focus. Each glance in the rearview mirror sparked fresh horror. The fading light and dark silhouettes twisted into grotesque shapes behind him, a nightmare unfolding in his wake. He could almost feel it tugging at him, the unseen force eager to drag him down into its depths. The road began to narrow, bordered by trees that loomed like specters. Chase's breath caught as jagged branches grasped at his windshield. Shadows darted between the trees. Were they glimpses of something lurking? Or remnants of ghosts who had lingered too long, like the woman? An icy shiver skittered down his spine. "Don't look back," he hissed at himself, squeezing his eyes shut for a fleeting moment. But the darkness beyond his eyelids pressed against him with a weight that felt tangible. Panic surged again, clawing at his rational thoughts. He gritted his teeth and forced his eyes open, clutching the steering wheel tighter. Ahead, the road twisted sharply like the mind of a madman. Just as Chase took the curve, his headlights caught a shuddering figure stumbling from the underbrush, a boy, no older than 12, his clothes tattered and eyes filled with dread. "Please! Help me!" The boy's voice was a raw whisper, hanging in the chilled air like the last breath of a dying man. Chase's insides twisted. "Get in!" he shouted, his heart racing between fear and a desperate need to save. As the boy clambered into the passenger seat, Chase felt an unsettling weight balance between them. The boy radiated something dark, but the urgency in his eyes urged Chase to trust him. "I saw her," the boy gasped, glancing around as if expecting the shadows to close in. "She's coming for you too. We have to outrun her." "I know," Chase replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He didn't know how to reassure them both when his own heart was pounding like a drum. "But I don't understand. Who is she?" "I don't know her name. But she hunts us in the night. She waits for the lost, and when she finds you, you can't escape." The boy trembled, and Chase could feel the cold radiating off him. Chase tightened his grip on the wheel, fighting the urge to look in the mirror again. What if he saw the girl's face staring back at him? What if the thing was right behind him, just out of sight? "You've seen her?" he asked, voice shaky. The boy nodded slowly, his expression one of resignation mixed with fear. "I saw my brother." He didn't listen. He looked back. A knot twisted in Chase's stomach, and he felt every nerve in his body come alive with dread. What happened to him? The boy turned pale, his breath rattling in his chest. He stopped, and then, nothing. Just silence. He was gone. A growl resonated from the fog, deep and primal. It rolled over them, saturating the air with a chill that felt all-consuming. Chase's foot instinctively slammed on the gas, propelling them forward, but deep in his gut, a truth clawed for release. The girl, the boy's brother, it was all connected in a way that sent terror coursing through him. As they careened through the fog, the headlights cast flickering shadows ahead. A figure loomed, darker than the night itself, waiting just beyond their reach. "Look out!" the boy screamed. Chase swerved, heart racing, but the world twisted again. In that instant, he realized with horror what the shadows whispered. Every road led back to the truth he feared to confront. What if the darkness he fled was stronger than his will to survive? And just as panic seized him once more, the realization hit: this wasn't just a road. It was a descent into madness. The moment they both dreaded had arrived. What lay ahead might seal their fates, or reveal far deeper horrors than they could ever imagine. The sound of tires screeching filled the night as Chase fought to regain control of the vehicle. The headlights sliced through the dense fog, illuminating a twisted tree trunk that had appeared out of nowhere. "Hold on!" Chase shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He barely felt the boy clinging to the door as the car veered wildly off the road, plowing through bushes and mud. The engine roared, but it was drowned out by the strangled sob the boy let escape, a sound that sent chills racing through Chase. Then, suddenly, there was silence. The car came to a stumbling halt, wedged among the underbrush. Chase's breathing was ragged, his heart thumping violently. "Are you okay?" He turned to the boy, fear gripping him once more. The boy's face was pale, terror-glazed, lips trembling, the earlier urgency replaced by a fresh wave of dread. I don't know," the boy whispered, casting frightened glances out the windows. "She's still coming." Chase's breath caught. He turned, straining to listen. The fog hung heavy, muffling sounds that should have been clear. All he could perceive was the unnatural stillness, as if the world was holding its breath. It felt wrong, as if they had crossed an invisible line. "Stay down!" Chase ordered, leaning over to shield the boy with his shoulders. He risked a glance through the cracked window and gasped. Shapes slithered in the fog, flickering like shadows that danced just out of reach of his headlights. Their movements sent tendrils of icy fear curling around his spine. "Chase," the boy whispered, his voice trembling. "If we don't leave now, it'll be too late." Panic surged, and Chase punched the gas, but the vehicle remained stuck, the tires just spinning in the mud. The headlights cast long shadows that appeared to reach toward them, as if the darkness itself was alive and hungry. "Get out!" the boy shouted, his voice rising in terror. "We have to run." Chase shook his head. "I want to leave you." But deep down, he could feel despair creeping in, the crushing weight of the unknown pressing down on him. "It's coming! Look!" The boy pointed outside, and Chase turned. A figure emerged from the fog, tall, spectral, and featureless, standing unnaturally still, as if just waiting for them to make a mistake. It felt like the air had thickened, weighing them both down, dragging at their resolve. "What does it want?" Chase asked, dread pooling in his stomach. Us. To take us. The boy screamed, his voice echoing in the cramped space. Don't you see? It feeds on fear. Chase's resolve wavered as he pressed his hands against the steering wheel, his knuckles white. This wasn't just a road, this was a threshold into a nightmare he had yet to confront. What if they were already too late? The boy's eyes grew wider, glancing back out the window as if something had captured his attention. She's coming closer. Chase peered into the growing shadows. The figure loomed larger, edging forward with unnatural grace. With each breath, the shadows seemed to thicken, curling around the car like specters entwining their fate. Get ready! Chase urged, heart hammering. He was about to try once more to free the car when the fog swirled, revealing a glimpse of that haunted girl, the one from before, eyes wide, mouth shaping silent screams. Chase's heart plummeted. The boy gasped. You have to drive. Now! With a sudden burst of fear-fueled adrenaline, Chase gripped the wheel. He had to act. But just as he prepared to rev the engine, everything went dark, swallowed whole by the encroaching fog. In that moment of suffocating blackness, the boy's voice cut through, shaking. Chase, you need to know the truth about her or we will never escape. What truth lay buried behind the fog? Chase's heart raced, pulse pounding in his ears. Would he learn in time? Or would the shadows claim them both? Chase's breath came in ragged gasps, a mix of terror and determination as he tried to comprehend the fog that enveloped them. His mind screamed at him to move, to do something, but the boy's warning echoed like a dark promise in his ears. Chase. The boy's voice was urgent, trembling yet unwavering. You have to remember what you saw. It's the only way. What do you mean? Chase's voice cracked. He was losing grip on reality, the shadows around them thickening, taking form. He fought against the creeping dread, struggling to force order upon the chaos swirling in his mind. I don't know how to explain, the boy stammered, his eyes darting around as though seeking an escape. But she wasn't just an accident. She was taken. The chill of those words sunk deep into Chase's bones. He remembered the girl's eyes, the raw, desperate look that haunted him. The sound of her earlier screams replayed in his mind like an old movie stuck on loop. Each memory carried weight, unraveling his thoughts further. Listen, Chase, we have to focus. She's coming, and she thrives on our fear. If we don't confront her, she will take us like she took the others. Chase clenched his jaw, fighting the urge to scream. He was tangled in confusion and fear, but he couldn't let it show. What do you know about her? She was never alone. She lured people in. She wouldn't let them leave. She was seeking revenge for something horrible that happened to her. The boy's voice quivered, and Chase's heart sank deeper, as if it were being weighed down by guilt he didn't understand. But what? Because of us. Because we drove past here without stopping, we didn't listen to her cries. A heavy silence settled, thickened by guilt and despair. The fog pressed against the car, distorting the reality outside. Chase could almost hear whispers weaving through the air, echoing with the same agony he witnessed earlier. A shiver ran down Chase's spine. How do we stop her? The boy shook his head, eyes wide with terror. We have to face her. We have to make her remember or she'll never let us go. A sudden jolt gripped Chase as an image burst in his mind, the girl from before, her shadow stretching into some elder horror. He felt her presence wrapping around him, colder than the fog, sharper than fear. Okay, Chase said, his voice steadier than he felt. If we have to face her, then we will. Together. As he spoke, the car began to tremble. The figure from the fog emerged again, palpable and sinister, her gaze pinned on him through the thickening shadows. Chase, the boy whispered, the waver in his voice a reflection of Chase's tightening grip on the steering wheel. We need to be brave. The chill deepened as the girl stepped closer, the edges of her form blurring and shifting, each movement a mockery of life itself. She seemed almost human, her features rippling in and out, twisted into something grotesquely beautiful. Chase's heart raced, a drumbeat of fear and defiance. He had come too far to run. The moment to confront the haunting truth was upon them. Was it really revenge she sought, or was it something deeper? Something rooted in all of them? Stay close, he demanded, forcing the words past the lump in his throat. As the shadows thickened, both Chase and the boy braced themselves. The time for answers and confrontation was now, but would the truth grant them freedom? Or was it the very thing that would seal their fates? The girl stopped inches from the windshield, a seductive darkness pooling around her, obscuring everything Chase thought he knew. He swallowed hard, determination coursing through him. What do you want from us? The girl's mouth opened, but no words came out. Instead, a haunting wail escaped, shattering the silence, echoing deep into the fog. And in that moment, everything was at stake. What truth would be unveiled in the face of her cries? The wail pierced through the stagnant air like a knife, rattling Chase to his core. The car shook violently, as if the vehicle itself was trying to escape the horror unfolding just outside. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white as the sensation of twisting dread clawed at him. What is she saying? The boy's voice was a fragile whisper, as though speaking louder might draw the malevolence closer. Chase forced himself to look into the fog-laden figure's eyes, those haunting, deep pools of sorrow, and what he saw there sent a fresh wave of cold shivers down his spine. They were filled with an abyss of pain, a longing that resonated through the very air they breathed. It was unnerving, like staring into the face of someone who had lost everything. Listen, Chase attempted to calm his own pounding heart. She's trying to tell us something. The wailing turned into a series of fragmented words, the sound distorting in the oppressive fog. Help me, forgotten cries. Each syllable was laced with anguish, a desperate plea from someone trapped between worlds. Chase's mind raced. Forgotten cries. Was that what this was about? She needed recognition, validation. He glanced at the boy, whose wide eyes mirrored the turbulence churning inside him. What do we do? The boy gasped, tugging at the hem of his shirt as if searching for comfort in the threadbare fabric. Chase inhaled deeply, grounding himself against the swell of panic. If she can't let go, maybe we need to help her remember. We can't just stand here and let her take us. Her figure flickered, a cascade of light and shadow dancing around her, almost as if she were woven from the very fog that surrounded them. Chase's gaze remained fixed on her, heart racing faster with each creak of the car. Do you think if we tell her what we saw it'll bring her peace? The words tumbled out of Chase, unsure yet tinged with a glimmer of hope. The girl's wailing softened, becoming a rhythmic rise and fall, like a heart desperately trying to find its beat. For a moment, it felt as if she was listening, suspended in shared sorrow. Chase seized the moment, heart pounding. Was this the key? He leaned forward, his voice a trembling whisper. We saw you. It wasn't just a scream. We saw you reaching out. The shadows thickened, swallowing her figure momentarily, leaving only her glimmering eyes glinting in the darkness. Remember, she echoed, her voice vibrating through the air like a distant thunder. Remember what? Chase rushed to ask, breath hitching. Did she want them to recall her story? His mind darted back. He had to remember. A sudden memory flashed, a moment in time when they had pulled the car over on that deserted road, the silhouette of a girl in white, flailing in the abandonment of night. The image burned into his retinas, yet he was paralyzed, unable to act. It matters! We should have. Chase's words faltered, realizing the gravity of their inaction. Confront her past. Acknowledge her. The boy's urgency propelled him forward, as if he sensed a flicker of hope in the dark. The girl's figure began to expand, shadows swirling around her like an angry storm, her eyes glistening with an unbridled hunger. Help me, she pleaded, her voice more chilling than ever. Let us help you, Chase shouted, desperation bleeding into his tone. We're here now. We see you. The air thickened, a heavy weight anchoring them to their seats, their plea echoing into the night. In that moment, it felt like a pact was being formed, an unspoken understanding bridging their depths of fear and her haunting sorrow. But just as quickly as determination ignited, everything fell silent. The girl blinked once, twice, and then the fog tightened around her, swirling into a cyclone of darkness. The car shifted violently, and for a brief moment, fear gripped Chase once more. "Chase!" the boy cried out, his face pale. "What happens if she remembers?" "Maybe we have to find out," Chase replied, but the uncertainty hung in the air thick as before. Just then, a new sound pierced through the fog, a rustle, like something creeping through the underbrush, bringing with it a sense of dread that overshadowed even the girl's haunting presence. Chase's heart tightened. What was that? Would they be facing something more? A deeper darkness, an unseen enemy? The shadows twisted further, the old trees bending in response to a force that seemed foreign yet familiar. Chase's pulse quickened. Whatever was hidden in the depths of the fog wasn't just the consequence of their past, it felt like a prelude to something far more terrifying. "Chase," the boy whispered, dread seeping into his voice. "We might regret that we came. It feels like there's more coming." As fear wrapped tighter around their throats, the air grew heavy with foreboding. The truth was just within reach, but so were darker threats that loomed ahead. What awaited them now in the heart of the fog? And could they truly confront the darkness without losing themselves along the way? Chase's breath caught as he flicked his gaze into the suffocating fog. The rustling grew louder, an insistent whispering that danced through the trees, wrapping around them like fingers clawing for escape. He strained to see, but the shadows shifted, twisting into sinister shapes that flickered in and out of focus. "Something's coming," the boy said, voice trembling. "What do we do?" Chase shook his head, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. "We have to stay calm. Whatever it is, we can't afford to panic now." The girl's image swirled just beyond reach, her eyes still locked onto them, pleading in silence. An electric charge hung in the air, charged with emotions swirling like the mist. Time stretched taut, and he could feel the impending dread weighing down on him, pressing against his lungs. Suddenly, a shadowed figure broke from the trees, emerging with a menacing slowness. Chase's stomach dropped. The silhouette was human but twisted, almost grotesque. It moved with an unnatural grace, a spectral mockery of life. "Chase!" The boy's voice quivered, barely rising above a whisper. "What if that's her? What if she's not alone?" He fought the urge to turn the car around, to slam on the gas and flee into the night. But they had already crossed the line. Leaving now would mean abandoning the girl and whatever hope lay in facing her memories. "Stay with me," Chase said, forcing his voice to steady as the figure stepped closer. The creature turned its head, revealing a face that was half hidden in shadows. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light that chilled Chase to the bone. The words from the deep gloom whispered in fragmented tones, indistinguishable yet sinister. Forgotten, lost cries. The girl in the fog began to dissolve, her form rematerializing with an urgency that sent shards of panic through Chase. "Help me," she pleaded again, but now the boy was trembling, eyes wide with terror. "Chase!" the boy cried, voice tinged with desperation. "What if we can't help her? What if it makes things worse?" Chase gritted his teeth, frustration mixing with fear. "We can't just leave her." But the realization hit him like a cold slap. What if they did unearth her past? What if doing so unleashed a bitter wrath instead of peace? In that breathless moment of indecision, the creeping figure surged forward, a horrific amalgamation of all Chase had feared. It reached out with hands that clawed at the night, the chill wrapping around Chase's throat like a noose. "Remember us!" the figure shrieked, the sound splitting the fog and driving knives of anguish deep into Chase's chest. It was a voice warped by 1,000 unsaid words, a billion unheard cries. Chase's heart raced. "What do you want from us?" he yelled, the sound exploding from him, raw and filled with terror. The fog thickened, wrapping around the car. "Forgotten, forgotten," echoed from every direction. The world outside blurred, the trees bowing as if surrendering to a storm. "Chase!" The boy clutched the armrest tightly, eyes gleaming with unshed tears. "She's losing control. We need to do something." Okay, Chase's mind whirled as he wrestled with fear and resolve. "We'll try again. We'll help her remember, even if it means facing whatever's out there." But as Chase leaned toward the fog-shrouded girl, the shadowed figure moved closer, towering above, a grotesque parody of a protector. "You cannot help what you do not understand," it thundered, sending a wave of dread crashing into them. And then, the darkness washed over him, the world collapsing into chaos, a whirlwind spiraling in on itself. The vision of the girl blurred as her face morphed into that of someone familiar yet unrecognizable. Chase shook his head, fighting the encroaching tide, but the shadows dragged him deeper, the cries blending into a symphony of despair. The boy screamed, pushing against the door as if wanting to break free. "Don't let it take you!" But the grip of the figure tightened, pulling them into the very heart of the fog, and all Chase could see were those haunting eyes pleading just beyond reach. A chilling whisper echoed. Around them, faced the darkness, "Remember your truth," and then the air went still, an expectant silence hanging heavy before shattering into darkness. What hidden truths were waiting in the abyss? Would confronting the darkness yield salvation or doom? Time held its breath, and it felt as if the world was ready to crack wide open. Chase gasped, air rushing back into his lungs like a floodgate bursting. He blinked, momentarily blinded by a surge of bright light, and tried to shake the darkness from his mind. As the fog began to dissipate, he found himself breathless and disoriented. The boy was gripping his arm tightly, knuckles white, fear etched across his face. "What happened?" the boy stammered, eyes darting around as if expecting the shadows to pounce. Chase turned his head, scanning the area. They were still in the clearing, but something had changed. The eerie figure had vanished, swallowed by the mist like a phantom. Instead, a soft glow illuminated the ground where the girl had stood. "I don't know," Chase replied, unsure of how to process it. His heart still thundered in his chest, and he could still hear the whispers echoing in his ears, a haunting melody of despair. "But we can't just sit here. We need to move." The boy nodded hesitantly. "But where?" "She disappeared. What if we're too late?" Chase swallowed hard, trying to find certainty in the chaos. "We're not too late. She is here, somewhere. We just have to find her." That spark of determination ignited a small flame of hope within him, comforting against the backdrop of fear. They climbed out of the car, the air thick with tension. Each step seemed to absorb the weight of their unspoken fears. The fog twisted around them, a living entity hiding secrets in its folds. "Chase," the boy whispered, dread coating his words like poison, "what if it's dangerous? What if facing her memories just..." He trailed off, unable to finish. "Then we face it together," Chase said, steeling his resolve. "We've come this far. We owe it to her." With each step, the chilling whispers grew louder, brushing against their ears like cold fingers. It was as if the very ground beneath them thrummed with an energy yearning to break free, tangible, yet intangible. "Remember, you forgot," the voices slithered through the trees, warped and burdened with sorrow. Chase shook his head, pushing the noise aside. It was more than voices. There were stories buried here, waiting to be unearthed. "Chase." His friend's voice broke through the mounting clamor. The boy had stopped, eyes wide, fixated on a spot in the fog, entranced. "What is it?" Chase turned to face him, heart racing. "There. Look!" He pointed, and Chase followed his gaze. A figure flickered in the distance, shimmering like a heat wave, swaying as if caught in a breeze. It was the girl. Her face was more distinct now, her ethereal light pulsing with urgency. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice echoing, wavering like a lost echo through the woods. Chase felt the boy stiffen beside him. "What if she is tricking us?" "No!" Chase snapped, feeling anger flare. "She is in trouble, and we're going to help her." With renewed determination, they sprinted towards her, moving through the fog that thickened around them, swirling and coiling like a serpent. "Don't let go!" Chase shouted, suddenly realizing the boy had hesitated. He reached back, grabbing his hand tightly, and together they vaulted forward into the unknown, hearts pounding. The air crackled with tension as they neared the girl. "Remember!" she cried, her voice shattering the residue of the fog. "Your truth, your past." Chase stumbled, a flash of memory igniting like a firework in his mind. A distant voice, a name, A long-forgotten moment, woven together by threads of regret and pain, surged forth, tightening around him. He grabbed the boy's arm tighter, his eyes wide. "Do you feel that?" Chase gasped. The boy swallowed, shaking his head slowly, terror painting his features. Suddenly, a torrent of memories rushed back, haunting images unraveling before them. The girl's cries blended with their own whispered fears. "What if we can't handle it?" the boy whispered. Chase didn't answer. The truth hovered just out of reach, blurring the lines between nightmarish visions and reality. And then the girl's delicate form dissolved into the mist, leaving only her haunting words echoing. "Face your truth." Chase's feet froze. Fear gripped him tight as the shadows began to close, again tightening their hold. Would they step into the spiral of memories they feared, or would they be swallowed by the abyss? With a mouth dry as dust, Chase shouted, "What truth? What do you want from us?" And that's when the fog ripped apart, and the past rushed back like a tsunami. What awaited them as the darkness revealed its secrets? Would they be able to confront their past, or was it already too late? Chase's heart raced as the fog split like the curtains of a theater, revealing a stage drenched in stark light. It illuminated a scene that felt both familiar and foreign, a childhood playground, now overgrown with weeds and littered with the ghosts of laughter that hung thick in the air. The moment stretched, filled with an unbearable silence. Shadows flickered at the edges, figures lurking just out of sight, memories that should have felt comforting now twisted into something sinister. "Chase, what is this place?" the boy gasped, his grip tightening painfully on Chase's arm. "I don't know," Chase replied, staring into the scene that morphed before them. Playground swings swayed silently, and the rusted merry-go-round creaked as if pushed by invisible hands. It was as if the very fabric of their past had stitched itself together in this cursed space. Then he heard it, the laughter, a high-pitched melody that drifted through the air, tainted with a darkness that sent shivers down his spine. Did the boy hear it? "We have to keep moving," he urged, his voice strained. "Stay close." They stepped into the playground, the ground crunching beneath their feet. The feeling of being watched was palpable, prickling at the back of Chase's neck. A chill wrapped around his spine, and yet the magnetic pull of the girl's voice drew them deeper. "Help me," she echoed again, and again that aching plea clawed at the recesses of his mind, gnawing anxiously at his resolve. Suddenly, the laughter turned into a cacophony of screeches, blending with shrill cries. The boy staggered back, eyes wide with fear. "This isn't right. We have to go." "No!" Chase snapped, stepping forward. "We can't leave her." A figure flickered near the swings, just beyond the reach of the harsh light. It was her, edged in shadow, but unmistakably the girl they'd seen before. "Remember who you are," she cried, her eyes blazing with intensity. "You cannot run from this." Chase felt as if he were standing on the precipice of a cliff, teetering between the tangible and the spectral. The boy's face twisted in terror as their world warped around them, memories like whispers wrapped in smoke curling away from his grasp. "Chase, please." Panic bubbled in the boy's words. "What if it consumes us?" "Then we face it together," Chase said fiercely, forcing himself to look into the depths of his memory, a churning, murky darkness threatening to pull him under. Images flooded back at once, fragments of laughter, a promise made under the summer sun, the sudden flash of betrayal, pain. He stumbled backward, the weight of the revelations crashing down like a wave against the rocks. "What? No! She wanted to keep us safe." Chase breathed, realizing that all along, he had buried the truth, his own haunting secret that cut deeper than any knife. The echoes of childhood friends turned to ghosts, echoed in his mind as the girl started to dissolve, her form shifting in and out of visibility, each flicker pulling Chase in. "Face your truth," she shouted one last time, her voice desperate, desperate as if it could pierce through the very fabric of what was real and what was not. The ground shook beneath them, shadows crawling at the edges, hungry. The boy stepped back, his face pale as resolution flickered in his eyes. "Are you ready for this?" But Chase hesitated. The answer hung in the air, heavy with the weight of consequence. Would facing the truth free them or bind them to a fate they dreaded? The playground quaked, As if the very past cried out for release. Would they escape the echoes that chased them, or were they fated to repeat the cycle? Let us. Before he could complete his thought, a sound roared from the depths of the fog, more terrible than the whispers. It silenced the laughter, swallowing it whole, an ominous presence now looming with intent. Chase could only catch a glance at the boy's panicked face as the otherworldly howl pierced their senses, and then the shadows surged forward like a storm. What awaited them in the darkness that spiraled around them, drowning out their cries for help? Would they finally seize the truth? Or would it consume them both? Chase's heart pounded in time with the monstrous roar that rumbled from the depths of the fog. The darkness shifted, lost souls swirling in its embrace. Panic gripped him tightly, squeezing the breath out of his chest. "Run!" he yelled, not waiting for the boy to decide. They sprinted through the playground, imagining they were just kids again, carefree and invulnerable. But this was no innocent game. Ghostly laughter transformed into spine-chilling screams swirling in the air. Smothering shadows reached for them, each one a reminder of those too afraid to confront their past. "Chase!" The boy's voice cracked as he stumbled. There was no time to think. Chase lunged back, grabbing his arm. "Keep moving!" He pulled him forward, fighting through the suffocating fog. Each step felt heavier, twisted roots grabbing at their ankles as they dashed toward a slender shaft of light breaking through the mist ahead. Hope swelled in Chase's chest and propelled him forward. The specter of the girl re-emerged in front of them, her form pulsating with anxious energy. "Help me!" she pleaded, her voice carrying the weight of countless souls lost. "You must remember. You must face what you have done." Chase's heart lurched. Was it guilt that haunted him, or was it fear of understanding? "What do you want from us?" he screamed, voice rising above the gathering storm. "Stop running. Face the truth." Her figure shimmered, infused with an urgency that ignited an old fire within him. Relentless memories clawed at the edges of his mind, begging for recognition. It all came rushing back. The laughter of children, the sweet summer days, the moment when their lives twisted dramatically. Chase remembered the frantic cries of a friend left behind, swallowed by their ignorance. He had seen it unfold as a distant specter. Had he really thought forgetting would help? "Chase!" The boy tugged at his arm. "What if we can't confront it? I can't let her fade again." Chase shouted back, his voice echoing with newfound resolve. With a deep breath, he stepped closer to the girl, the weight of her despair heavy in the air. "We acknowledge you. Your pain, your cries. We see you." The shadows recoiled, the howling grew softer. Chase felt the boy's grip loosen as they steadied themselves together. They wouldn't let fear take them. They wouldn't be lost again. In the widening light ahead, the girl's face turned softer despite the anguish. Remember the bond that ties you." Her eyes glimmered with a truth that struck like thunder in Chase's chest. The bond and pain could be a bond of healing. The darkness rippled, deep shadows bending away from the light pouring through the fog. Echoes of whispered cries mingled with laughter. The forgotten past wove into a tapestry of acceptance. "Together," Chase urged, taking the lead. They owed it to her, owed it to themselves. Braving the encroaching shadows, they forged ahead into the heart of the light. Shadows twisted angrily, but the illumination broke their grasp like threads of silk in the teeth of a storm. Each step gained momentum, propelling them forward as the girl's glowing figure began to crystallize around them. "Embrace the truth," she cried, her voice radiating warmth as it reached into the depths of their souls. In that moment, Chase closed his eyes, embracing the storm of emotions cascading through him. Memories flashed, a brotherhood forged in the fire of childhood, avowed to be there for one another. They faced the darkness head-on, the shadows cringing away from the encroaching strength. "Forgive yourself," the girl pleaded, an echo reverberating in the air. With one final push, they leaped into the light, and everything exploded. The playground's vibrant colors bloomed once more, the laughter of children filling the air around them. Chase opened his eyes, breathless, looking at the vivid reality where mist had suffocated them moments before. They stood together in the sunlight, hearts racing but unburdened. The girl in white shimmered beside them, her ghastly visage transformed into a grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice sweet. "You have set us free." Chase and the boy looked at each other, the gravity of their bond undeniable now. They had faced their fears and confronted the shadows that lurked within, all for her sake. As the girl dissolved into sparkling light, releasing the forgotten souls, a calmness washed over them. The shadows receded, revealing Hollowed Creek Road bathed in dawn-esque golden hues. The weight of history felt lifted, shaping a future unshackled by the past. "We did it," the boy spoke softly, all wrapping his words like a warm embrace. "Yeah, we did," Chase breathed, heart swelling. In the distance, the road glimmered ahead like a fresh start, and without a backward glance, they stepped forward, navigating through the morning light not just free from the past, but ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. But before that light faded, one final thought lingered. "Could you imagine how many others need to hear this?" Chase whispered. Suddenly, deep emotion took hold within him, igniting another fire. This experience deserved to be shared, to ripple outward. He turned to look back at the camera perched nearby, instinctively connecting to the mysterious energy that flowed between them all. "You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share. Our truth is healing, and you can be part of it. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now, feed the algorithm, and flood that comments section with your thoughts. Let us connect. Share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Together, we rise from the darkness." With that, they forged ahead, emboldened by the light, and ready to embrace the stories yet unwritten.